My mom thinks I'm gay because I want to pursue a culinary career. I just recently expressed to my parents my desire to be a chef while my dad just kinda didn't care at all. My mom went on this insane rant about how it's gay and I should try getting a man's job like a mechanic or a construction worker. What to even say? She's so entitled, it's insane. I can't even argue back, or it's deemed disrespectful and against my religion. Having a racist, homophobic mother. It's so hard, and I'm just extremely embarrassed at this point. I mean, we all have our flaws and we're all raised differently, but literally everything you could possibly think of applies to my mother. She's racist, always making comments about people from other countries, using the N-word, etc. She's homophobic, even though her boyfriend's best friend is lesbian, and she can act nice when she happens to visit us. She'll literally, when seeing a gay couple, let out a really loud EW. She's extremely anti-religious, judging people for their beliefs. It's honestly not a surprise that I turned out the way I did, which she also has a problem with. Surprise. Imagine a fucking grown woman judging her own child for an eating disorder after dealing with one for years herself. It's so pathetic, and I feel sorry for anyone experiencing something similar. Having both mommy and daddy issues ain't fun. Husband made my grandmother cry. Link to previous post. Hi all. I'm back with a very long update about my overbearing grandmother. I will say, I have dropped the ball a bit on this one. I have people-pleaser tendencies, and being direct with people makes me very uncomfortable. But I did begin redirecting her very possessive and extreme comments. Anytime that she's made a comment that's been way out of line, we've corrected her. For example, I was out to lunch with my mom, sister, and my grandmother, and my mom asked if my husband's mom wanted to be the first grandparent to hold my babies. She lives 3 hours away and my mom lives right down the road, so she wanted to be able to give that experience to my husband's mom because she won't be able to see them as much. I thought this was a very sweet sentiment, but I told my mom that his mother isn't the type of person to have to be the most important grandparent to the kids, and she doesn't want to ever make anyone feel like she's better than them. My grandmother then made a statement that she feels that way about herself, and she wants to be the first to see the kids. So I responded saying that the actual grandparents are going to be the first ones to see them no matter what, and then she and whoever else can come in after. She didn't say anything after that. Or when we were at my baby shower, we said that we were excited for our babies to meet everyone, and she chimed in and said especially me. And my husband said they're excited to see everyone, in a cheerful tone. She has cut back on saying those extreme types of statements since we've diverted them, and has also stopped rubbing all over my stomach since I started physically recoiling from her, and even stated one time that she can't hold the babies until they're here yet, so all she's doing is holding my stomach. However, she still will say the "my babies" type of stuff, which still really makes my husband mad. It irks me, but it's something that I can deal with, especially since she stopped doing anything else that's been overbearing. I've always begged him not to say anything to her though, as my family can get very defensive fast when it comes to respecting elders, especially my grandmother. Well, a few days ago, it was my mom's birthday dinner. We were at a restaurant with my family and both sets of my grandparents. My grandmother ended up paying for the whole meal, which she never does, and it was definitely very generous of her. She made a comment at the end of the dinner as we were walking out saying "them's my boys," and patted my stomach a couple of times. Annoying, but like I said, it's something I can put up with, especially since it was my mom's birthday and we were in front of everyone. But my husband very coldly stated, "No, they're not, they're mine." My grandmother recoiled and looked hurt, then walked further ahead of us. My husband proceeded to not say bye to her and didn't thank her for the meal. When we got in the car, we got in a big fight about it, where he stated that he didn't realize that she paid or he would have thanked her, and also that he's sick and tired of her possessive nature over our sons and just snapped. I told him that I understood that he was upset, but going about it in that way in front of everyone was not the way to do it. We had a long talk about it, and I explained to him that I feel like those little things she says are not that big of a deal in the long run, and I reminded him that we've stopped most of her overbearing behaviors, so this is something that I feel we could cut some slack on her for. We both came to an agreement that if she overstepped actual boundaries when the kids are born, then we would calmly deal with it then and there. He said he would never react like that again, and I thought everything was okay. Well, 4 days now my phone has been blown up by both my mom and my dad. They're both very upset with my husband, and my dad even said he wants to clobber him for acting this way to an old woman who paid for his meal. He won't really do that, but it just shows how mad he is. He uses language like that often when he's angry. My dad said he's going to have a talk with my husband the next time he sees him to let him know how wrong he was. And my mom called me for days after crying over how mean my husband was for doing that to my grandmother. Apparently, my grandmother told my mom that she knows now that we don't want her in our kids' lives and that she won't bother us anymore. My mom said that this isn't true, and that sometimes the things that she says, like my babies, or implying that she's going to be the most important person in the babies' lives, is not received well. My grandmother then said that she didn't understand why my husband and I had such an issue with it because no one else in the family ever did when she would say those things about grandkids. However, people did have issues with it. My own mother said that she didn't act this intense about me or my sister when we were born, but she would still make comments about them being her babies, and it would irritate my mom. My mom just never said anything about it to my grandmother. But of course, my mom failed to mention that to her, and simply said, well, just because I didn't have an issue with it doesn't mean that they don't. So now me and my husband look like we're complete assholes, even more so. My mom has said multiple times that my grandmother annoys her, and it bothers her for us when she acts overbearing. It really pissed me off that she wouldn't say anything defending us in that aspect, but I believe she just didn't want to make my grandmother even more upset. My grandmother cried and said she knows her place now and hung up the phone. My grandmother is still apparently under the impression that we simply don't want her in our lives anymore, and she said that she now knows that all of the comments that we made in the past were proof of that. An example she used was when my husband made a joke saying we're gonna have to put our babies on a timeshare so everyone gets time with them, when my mama joked that she was going to take them home with her and not give them back. Now she's heartbroken. My mom is upset, my dad is angry, and my husband, up until recently, didn't know anything about this. He didn't know that for 3 days all of these things have been said because I have been trying to calm this situation down. I have told my family that I talked to him about it and that he feels like a jerk and that he won't act like that again, but they kept on dragging it out. I asked them why they won't confront my husband about it, since I technically haven't done anything wrong at all, and they said it's not their place to say anything. But when I told them that I hashed things out with my husband, they just kept going on about how rude he was. On the other hand, my family kept also telling me that they don't want me to do anything, and that this will eventually all blow over. Yet they wouldn't shut up about it at all, and how disappointed they are that my husband forgot to say thank you for the meal, and that he would be snippy with my grandmother. I eventually told my husband that my family was really upset by all this, and he was super shocked. He said he understood why I would not want to rock the boat now if they're going to react like this about things, and that this is an overblown reaction. I also feel like they're blowing everything way out of proportion, but this is nothing new for me. As a child, I had to be perfect. If I made one mistake or misbehaved in any way, I would get screamed at, punished, or humiliated in front of everyone. I wanted to keep the peace between my husband and my family because, while they have gotten better and are much more calm and understanding than they used to be, they still have their triggers. One of them is any kind of disrespect towards the elderly. That's something you never do no matter what in my family. So when my husband would talk about wanting to say something to my grandmother, it would make me nauseous because I knew that would end horribly and cause a crap storm in my family. And I was right. They said that now because my husband made an old widowed woman cry because she got overly excited about her great-grandchildren, that they have a bad taste in their mouth for him now. My husband said he was going to apologize to my grandmother for the way he behaved, but he still stands by what he said. I also agree with him and told him I was sorry for how my family is behaving. I told him I was sorry that I didn't properly handle the situation and that I am partially to blame for not setting out explicit boundaries with my grandmother and not understanding how much these little comments were bothering him. My husband and I are on the same page about everything. I ended up having a long talk with my mom recently now that she's kind of cooled down, and she said that she was sorry for blowing everything out of proportion. Apparently she was really upset, and my dad got angry seeing how his wife and his mother-in-law were reacting to this, and it caused him to be very angry. She said she doesn't want this to cause a rift between our families, and that she's going to talk to my grandmother and make things right. I told her that my husband and I want her in our lives, but that she needs to chill out on the over-possessiveness. She said she would explain everything to her and express that we don't hate her or anything. So I guess we'll see how that goes. She feels awful for putting so much stress and pressure on me, especially because I'm 34 weeks pregnant with twins and I didn't even do anything wrong in this situation. I'm still very cautious and am treading lightly through this whole situation. Needless to say, I'm not planning on visiting any family for a while.